They're eating the ostriches.
As a Canadian on the X platform right now, there are two things that are taking up my X feed. The first one is Quebec 2.0, Alberta wanting to separate from Canada, and the second one is MAGA in an uproar about how evil Canada is for murdering 300 birds. Since this is a consumer protection issue, I thought that I would come on here and just explain what's going on. So without further ado,
Karma's a bitch.
Queen of Karma.
if you are in Ontario, like I am, then you heard nothing about these ostriches, and then in the last week, all of a sudden, your feed looked a little bit like this, where everyone seemed to be talking about it and comparing it to George Orwell's 1984, accusing the government of protecting Big Pharma, and even stating that the ostriches had antibodies that could put an end to the coronavirus, and that's why. Crazy stuff. So what really happened? Is Canada going insane and visiting random small farms in BC to murder their animals? Will they be coming for us next? Let's discuss what's actually going on here. So, near the border of British Columbia, at a small farm called the Universal Ostrich Farm, about 300 birds, no one knew the exact count, had survived an outbreak of H5N1 avian influenza, also called bird flu, and been slaughtered almost a year ago. But after court battles, cross-border political appeals, in-person protests, and online campaigns to save the flock, the fight was over. The government had won. It is said that about 70 of the birds were ill with this virus. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, had to complete a cull of the ostriches. It was carried out under veterinary supervision using professional marksmen. And this was necessary to protect public and animal health and to limit economic impact on Canada's $6.8 billion poultry industry. It was to protect all of us. One Google search would have led everyone to this page, including the MAGA people. This is the Government of Canada website, which everyone in Canada has direct access to. And as you can see on May 14th of 2025, they wrote an article called Judicial Review Upholds Canadian Food Inspection Agency Order to Dispose of Birds Located at an Infected Premises in Edgewood, British Columbia. Following an expedited judicial review, the Federal Court of Canada has determined that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, acted reasonably within the authorities provided under the Health of Animals Act when it issued an order to the owners of a highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI, infected premises of Edgewood, British Columbia, to dispose of ostriches exposed to HPAI. The court dismissed both applications from Universal Ostrich Farm for judicial review, as it found the agency's decisions were reasonable based on the record before the decision maker and were made in a procedurally fair manner. The Health of Animals Act is the primary federal legislative authority for preventing, controlling, and eradicating animal diseases and is administered by the CFIA. Orders issued under Section 48 of the Health of Animals Act enable the CFIA to respond effectively to outbreaks of animal diseases in Canada and to help protect animal and human health. All avian influenza viruses, particularly H5 and H7 viruses, have the potential to infect mammals, including humans. A human case of H5N1 in BC earlier this year required critical care and an extended hospital stay for the patient. Allowing a domestic poultry flock known to be exposed to HPAI to remain alive allows a potential source of the virus to persist. It would increase the possibility of reassortment or mutation, particularly with birds raised in open pasture where there is ongoing exposure to wildlife. this could increase the human health risk. Our disease response aims to protect both public and animal health, as well as minimize impacts on the $6.8 billion domestic poultry industry and the Canadian economy. This supports Canadian families and poultry farmers whose livelihoods depend on maintaining international market access for $1.75 billion in exports. The CFIA has worked closely with the province of British Columbia throughout the HPAI response to protect BC's poultry sector, with effective disease controls measures, which mitigate the impact on poultry production in the province. The CFIA will begin the humane depopulation and disposal of birds at the infected premises with veterinary oversight. Operational plans and dates will not be shared with the public in advance. But of course, the public showed up and they took pictures and shared them everywhere, despite the CFIA trying to protect the world from having to see this. It's not cool to see a bunch of dead birds, So a lot of the people that are upset about this are the anti-vaxxers. They are using this as a way to push a political agenda. And I hadn't heard about this, and it's been going on for a year, I find out. So I'm thinking, well, why is my entire timeline now just taken over by this? That's a little bit insane. What's going on? And I found a great article that I think that we should read that sums up everything that's happening here and my thoughts. The Ostrich Op. How MAGA and Maple MAGA turned a bird flu call into a cult. They're all dead. Here's why. And why your feed was full of lies, grift, and performative outrage. Thanks, Dean Blundell, I was wondering. They were giant, skittish, prehistoric lawnmowers on two legs. Living, breathing animals caught between a biosecurity emergency and a carnival of conspiracists who smelled clout. I mean, I couldn't describe it better myself. A small farm on the edge of British Columbia became the latest stage for anti-government influencers, convoy lifers, and miracle cure hustlers to perform their greatest idiot hits. Rough, I don't know if I'd call it idiot hits, but The plot was always the same. The government is evil. The experts are lying. The animals are sacred. You're pets and you are next, and blah, blah, blah. Canada is evil. Send me a donation to my Venmo account. And here's another example. Oh my god, appears the CFIA slaughtered the entire flock of healthy ostriches through the night. Dark day for Canada. You'll notice it's Rebel News. That might be all you need to know. This is not secret police stuff. It's standard outbreak control. Canada follows a stamping out policy, the same one recognized by the World Organization for Animal Health. When HPAI shows up in domestic birds, that means depopulating infected and exposed flocks, disposing of carcasses safely, and disinfecting the premises to protect animal and human health and to keep export markets from slamming shut. The CFIA also laid out specific local risks. So confirmed H5N1 at the Edgewood Farm and a novel reassortment including the D1.3 genotype, previously tied to a human infection in an Ohio poultry worker. BC has already had a human H5N1 case requiring critical care this year. Letting hundreds of semi-free-ranging ostriches mingle with wildlife extends the window for mutation reassortment. That's the nightmare the policy is designed to avoid. Non-compliance matters. CFIA says the Maple MAGA, that's what you call a Canadian MAGA. Yep. Farm owners failed to report early illness and deaths as required by law, ignored quarantine orders, and did not implement basic biosecurity, wild birds feeding with ostriches, problems with carcass handling, 2 administrative monetary penalties totaling $20,000 were issued. That history made any test them all and keep them compromised a non-starter. In other words, the farm didn't comply properly with CFIA, and that's the problem here. It's their fault. No proof for the miracle egg claims. The owners pitched antibody from eggs research and asked for an exemption from stamping out based on unique genetics scientific value. CFIA says the farm never provided formal research protocols, trial logs, or evidence the flock had unique antibody capacity, and the facilities weren't suitable for controlled research anyway. In other words, they lied because they knew that Maple MAGA would get behind them and fight this on their behalf. I don't know why they didn't want to protect Canada and do something about the ostriches. Maybe it was too much work for them and they were lazy. Who knows? Add it all up and the outcome was inevitable. Once the courts ran out, depopulate, dispose, disinfect. And this, of course, is to protect all the other birds in the world and all the humans. So when you're looking at, do we kill 300 birds to protect the rest of the population of the world, I think that the choice is an easy one, but maybe not everyone does. How it became an op and why you kept seeing it in your feed. Influencer Oxygen, Freedom Convoy alumni, and far-right media made Edgewood a pilgrimage site all summer. Hence, baptisms, open mics, nightly lives. Rebel News built a Save the Ostriches campaign hub and churned video from the fence line.
You coward! Did the Canadian forces send a drone? Yes or no? And when they evidently are committing animal cruelty, there was no veterinarian there. They were shooting the ostriches. We don't know who. They were shooting them at night. I heard, and here's the shocking part, that there was another round of shootings in the morning when the sun was up. And I think it's sort of obvious what happened.
The narrative was familiar. Innocent animals, plus cruel state, plus censorship, plus miracle science they don't want you to know. As attention climbed, so did threats against workers and bystanders. CFIA union reps flagged abuse and doxing. RCMP reported multiple threat investigations. A 72-year-old neighbor was assaulted, and a suspect connected with the camp was arrested. The government restricted airspace over the farm, no drones, and maintained a constant police presence for safety. Then the farm's cause drew U.S. attention. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. urged Canada to spare the birds for study. CMS head Dr. Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, the talk show host, offered to rehome the flock in Florida. None of it changed the legal reality on the ground in BC because you can't ship birds with the fucking bird flu. They needed to die and they did. Oz and RFK know that. Every hillbilly who camped out to save the ostriches should have known that, but they didn't because Maple MAGA isn't exactly loaded with geniuses. This is a platforming cycle. Viral live streams, outrage fundraising, harassment, court dates, more streams. The ostriches became a prop for government overreach content. And a lot of people made a lot of engagement bucks while the same public health playbook ran in the background. And the average meat-eating Canadian couldn't have given fewer shits about it, including the man who wrote this article. Dean Blundell. Hello, mate. Oh my, there's even slurs being thrown at him over this. Lord. Don't do that. Is it sad? Not to be, but I know that the province of British Columbia has murdered 8.6 million birds this year alone, based on bird flu. But you can't sell a virus to a group of Sky Daddy-loving rejects who think viruses don't exist, and vaccines are the mark of the beast. I mean, it's mean, but he has a point. Dean is a demon. Do not engage the dark. Call Bob Larson.
Berserker demon?
So just to summarize, here are the facts. Confirmed H5N1 on site and CFIA jurisdiction under the Health of Animals Act. Stamping out is the rule, not a vendetta. And it's about mutations, reassortment, and trade as much as dying birds. Courts upheld CFIA repeatedly. The Supreme Court said no to the final appeal on November 6. Marksmen under veterinary supervision conducted the call. Compensation is available. Documentation required. Up to $3,000 per ostrich. The farm's unique antibody pitch lacked documentation. The biosecurity record was bad. They had to do this to protect the public. If you're still convinced this was a sinister plot to smother big, beautiful ostrich antibodies, you're arguing with court records, outbreak policy, and basic virology. Science, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, not just the media. A flock gets sick, a virus shows up. The one you've heard about. The one that vaporizes poultry farms and wrecks trade. Rules exist for moments like this. Report, quarantine, separate wildlife, follow the plan. That didn't happen. Instead, we got court delays, live streams, and a friendly fire disaster in the comments section, while a zoonotic virus had time and space to wander. Facts mattered less than vibes. The vibe was deep state versus big beautiful ostrich antibodies. The claim, these birds were special, immune, even medicinal. The proof, trust me bro. And buy the merch, yo! And some of them named the ostriches. It was a little bit bizarre, but there was a lot of fear mongering, like they're coming for your pets next. They're going to start euthanizing all of us. It was insanity and has been. It's still going on. So why did it end this way? Outbreak rules are not optional. When you sit on illness and ignore quarantine, you don't get special treatment later. Test them all and keep them sounds nice until you factor biosecurity failures, wildlife mixing, and the price of pretending a farm is a BSL whatever research lab, which could be human deaths. I'm just throwing that out there. Bird flu can kill humans. The miracle egg rhetoric never came with protocols, paperwork, or a facility that could back it up. You can't wave a GoFundMe at a pathogen and call it science. The evil government narrative collapses the second you stop doom scrolling and read how every country handles this exact problem. It's called stamping out. It's standard. It works. And it works to protect all the other populations of birds as well as humans. But let's be honest, this wasn't about birds, it was about attention. The formula is old and grossly profitable. 1. Find a thing people love, like animals. 2. Add a shadowy villain. Public health, Canada's liberal government. 3. Promise a miracle. Antibodies, cures, secret science. 4. Go live. Pass the mic, pass the hat. And 5. When reality intrudes, blame the cover-up and schedule your next stream. And don't forget leaving your Cash App and Venmo. It's a convoy theater with feathers. The audience cries, the creators cash out, the workers and neighbors take the threats. The birds still die, the virus still exists, and the rest of us clean up the mess. Then we go for ostrich burgers. Okay.
They're eating the
Ostriches.
They're eating the
Ostriches.
Eat the
Ostriches.
eat the
Ostriches.
They're eating the
Ostriches.
They're eating the
Ostriches. Ostriches.
We can argue about tone and tactics. That's healthy. We can demand better communication. That's necessary. But we don't build public health policy around influencer tantrums and tent revivals with idiots who were experts on forest fires, vaccines, pandemics, chemtrails, and now fucking ostriches and the bird flu virus. We build it around reality. Report early. Follow quarantine. Keep wildlife out. Don't invent science on the internet. That's how you save more animals next time and avoid turning a farm town into the world's worst comment section.
They're eating the
Ostriches.
In the end, even the ostriches couldn't outrun the chaos. Taken down not as victims, but as proof that nonsense eventually devours itself. MAGA outrage spilled over the border, flapping its wings and, like the ostriches, crashed hard. That's the lesson. Extremism may strut around like it owns the place, but it's always one step away from collapsing under its own absurdity. We don't mourn the ostriches, we recognize them as the punchline to a joke that was never funny. So let's keep laughing at the madness, keep calling it out, and keep building something stronger in its place. Because if even the ostriches can be taken down by the weight of this chaos, then so can the lies, the noise, and the imported outrage itself. Subscribe, stay skeptical, stay loud, and let's keep exposing the madness together. I will leave links to everything down below in case you want to learn more information or read the entire case. And I will see you all very soon with another one. Have a fabulous day. Okay, I love all your pieces. Bye. Consumer Protection Advocates 1, MAGA 0.
British Columbia. They're eating the ostriches. They're eating the ostriches. Eat the ostrich. Eat the ostrich. They're eating the ostriches. They're eating the ostriches. Eat the ostrich. Eat the ostrich. They're eating the ostriches. They're eating the ostriches. Eat the ostrich. Eat the ostrich. Eat the ostrich. ostrich. Eat the ostrich. Seeing red, so don't push me. Ain't Donald Trump trying to grab him by the said it was some conspiracy, don't push me. Shoot him down, let him screw around, so they couldn't cure the corona saga. So Big Pharma could grift more than Maple MAGA.
Queen of Karma.